Hello, and welcome to IntelligentPod, where curiosity meets clarity and thoughtful conversation is always in style. I'm your host, Sophie Lane, and today we're diving deep into a topic that's both inspiring and surprisingly complex: the psychology of altruism and prosocial behavior. Why do we help others? What motivates acts of kindness, generosity, and selflessness? And maybe most importantly, how can we cultivate more of these qualities in our lives and communities? Now, whether you've ever stopped to help a lost tourist, donated to a cause, or simply held the door open for someone, you've participated in what psychologists call prosocial behavior. This is a broad term that covers any action intended to benefit another person. Altruism, a related but slightly narrower concept, refers to helping others with no expectation of a reward, or sometimes even at a cost to yourself. So, why do we do it? Are humans naturally selfish, as some philosophies argue, or do we have an innate tendency to care for each other? And does true selflessness even exist? These are questions that have fascinated philosophers, scientists, and honestly, just about anyone who's ever wondered about the better angels of our nature. Let's start with some big picture context. In a world that can sometimes feel divided or cynical, stories of altruism, like strangers forming human chains to rescue someone from a flood, or volunteers risking their lives in disaster zones, always seem to capture our imagination. But even everyday acts of kindness add up. According to a 2022 survey by the Charities Aid Foundation, more than 60% of adults worldwide reported helping a stranger in the past month. That's billions of acts of kindness every single day. So, while headlines might focus on conflict, the truth is, altruism is alive and well. But where does it come from? Is it rooted in our biology, our upbringing, our culture, or is it a little bit of everything? Let's explore some of the leading perspectives. First, let's talk science. Evolutionary psychologists have long debated the origins of altruism. On the surface, it seems counterintuitive. Why would an individual sacrifice resources, time, or even safety for someone else's benefit? In the 1970s, evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins popularized the idea of the selfish gene. That is, genes that promote their own survival, sometimes at the expense of others. But as research unfolded, scientists realized that helping behaviors can actually be evolutionarily advantageous under certain conditions. One classic theory is kin selection. The idea here is that we're more likely to help those who share our genes. Think of parents sacrificing for their children, or siblings looking out for one another. By ensuring relatives survive and reproduce, individuals can indirectly promote their own genetic legacy. But what about helping strangers? That's where reciprocal altruism comes in. This concept suggests that helping others can be beneficial if there's a reasonable expectation the favor will be returned in the future. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. In small communities or groups, this creates a web of mutual support. And interestingly, our brains seem wired for this kind of social accounting. Neuroimaging studies show that areas associated with reward light up when we cooperate or help others, especially when we expect reciprocity. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, humans often help even when there's no chance of payback. And sometimes even anonymously. Why? This brings us to the psychological perspective, and perhaps my favorite part: the role of empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. The famous psychologist Daniel Batson, in his empathy-altruism hypothesis, argues that when we truly empathize with someone in need, we're moved to help for their sake, not for personal gain. In one of Batson's studies, participants who felt empathy for someone struggling to complete a task were far more likely to help, even when they could do so without anyone else knowing. This suggests that empathy can drive genuinely selfless behavior. Let me share a quick real-life anecdote that beautifully illustrates this. A few years ago, during a heat wave in Paris, residents were encouraged to check in on elderly neighbors who might be vulnerable to the extreme temperatures. One young woman, Leah, noticed that her neighbor, Madame Dubois, hadn't opened her shutters in days. Worried, Leah brought over some cold water and food and ended up spending the afternoon chatting. She later said, "It just felt right. I thought about my own grandmother and how I'd want someone to care for her." This is empathy in action, feeling with someone else and turning that feeling into help. Of course, culture shapes our expressions of altruism too. In collectivist societies, where group harmony and interdependence are valued, helping others is often seen as a duty rather than an option. In more individualistic cultures, prosocial acts might be framed as a personal choice or a way to express values. Yet, kindness and generosity are celebrated across the world, even as the forms they take vary. Now, I'd be remiss not to mention another angle. Is there really such a thing as pure altruism? Or do we always, on some level, help others because it makes us feel good or boosts our reputation? This is the classic egoism versus altruism debate. Some researchers suggest that even when we help anonymously or at great personal cost, we may still experience a helper's high, a rush of positive emotion that reinforces the behavior. Neurochemically, acts of kindness release endorphins and oxytocin, making us feel happier and more connected. But does that diminish the value of altruism? I'd argue not at all. If doing good makes us feel good, that's a wonderful feedback loop. And when kindness spreads, when one generous act inspires another, we get what's known as the pay-it-forward effect. Studies show that witnessing or experiencing kindness increases the likelihood that we'll help others too. So what can we take from all this? First, altruism and prosocial behavior are complex, rooted in biology, psychology, and culture. There's no single explanation, but a rich interplay of factors that drive us to help. Second, and perhaps most encouragingly, these qualities can be nurtured. We're not born with a fixed level of kindness or empathy. These are skills we can develop. Let me offer a few actionable strategies for fostering more altruism in your own life. 1. Practice noticing. Many opportunities to help are missed simply because we're not paying attention. Make it a habit to look for ways, big or small, to be helpful each day. It could be as simple as offering a genuine compliment or helping someone carry their groceries. 2. Cultivate empathy. Try to imagine yourself in someone else's shoes. The next time you encounter someone in need, pause and ask yourself, how would I feel in their place? Research suggests that even a brief moment of perspective-taking can increase compassionate action. 3. Start small and build. Don't feel pressured to make grand gestures. Even minor acts of kindness can have a ripple effect, not just on others, but on your own sense of well-being. 4. Model and reinforce kindness, especially with children. Studies show that kids who see adults engage in prosocial behavior are more likely to do so themselves. If you're a parent, teacher, or mentor, your example matters. 5. Join or support groups that align with your values. Whether it's volunteering, donating, or simply spreading awareness, collective efforts amplify individual acts. Let's recap. Today, we explored the rich landscape of altruism and prosocial behavior. We examined evolutionary theories, the power of empathy, cultural influences, and the debate over true selflessness. We looked at real-life stories and research, and we talked about practical ways to nurture kindness in our own lives. If there's one takeaway, it's this. Helping others is not just good for the world, it's good for us too. When we reach out, connect, and give, we tap into something fundamentally human. In a time when it's easy to feel isolated or overwhelmed, small acts of kindness are powerful reminders that we're all in this together. Thank you for joining me today on IntelligentPod. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review. It helps more curious minds discover the show. For show notes, references, and more resources, visit IntelligentPod.com. And if you have thoughts or stories to share about altruism, I would absolutely love to hear from you. Email me anytime at sophie@intelligentpod.com. Until next time, keep looking for the good in yourself and in others. I'm Sophie Lane, and this is Intelligent Pod. Stay curious, stay kind, and I'll talk to you soon.